I think we're good to go. I'm gonna give it one more minute. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day today, wherever you are around the world. So real quickly, just to do the logistics, if anyone ever has any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to just ask them right in your GoToWebinar widget, portal, whatever you want to call it. I will do my best to answer them throughout the whole entire webinar. If there is anything that I cannot answer, or any problems that I can't resolve during the webinar, I or my staff will be more than happy to answer them, or we will, not more than happy. We are going to answer them after the webinar as well. So, all right. We're close to our 50% acceptance attendance rate from our registration. So I think we're looking forward to having everyone attend. We got hundreds, close to 500 people now that are on this webinar. So that's exciting. It means it's something that people are interested in, or you're looking just to take an hour off of work, or it's something new. But we're going to talk about how DNS failover can be used to increase uptime for your website and your services. Now, this is something that's been passionate for me in the industry for almost 20 years. But I'm going to mention it throughout the webinar. We're going to talk about it a little bit, how it's coming more and more in the news, right? So many providers are having an outage, and websites and web services are taken offline, and how you can use parts of these best practices that have now been out for 20 plus years to increase uptime and increase the redundancy of your own service. So a little bit about myself. Like I said in the very beginning, my name is Stephen Jobe. I'm the president and founder of DNS Made Easy. I actually programmed the original and developed the original DNS Made Easy code base back in 2001. And that means I've been doing this a very long time. So it's been a big passion for me to maintain uptime and resiliency and performance and everything like that. And that's kind of everything that we focus on here at DNS Made Easy and Constellix. If you ever want to reach out to me, feel free. Just go to the LinkedIn. You could connect to me. I'll connect to you. Send me messages. There are thousands of clients and customers, and I consider partners in our business for years that have reached out to me and asked questions. And I will always, if I have a time I always reply back. If I don't reply back right away, just give me a little understanding, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. So on this note, what I want to do, I want to start off. I know some people are still attending and still signing in, but I want to start by asking if I could find the correct poll. There it is. Just, are you currently using DNS failover right now? Are you using failover in your infrastructure? Have you thought about using it? Then that's fine. That's a no. But if you're using it right now, I want to see the yes or no's. We'll give it a minute. Still see over 50% now. So that's actually a good day for us. That's a good webinar. I got 81% voted. That means the other 82%. I'm not going to wait for all 100%. That means 18% or 83. That means the rest of you are already eating lunch or something, and you're just watching in the background, which is fine. All right, close the poll. Let's share these results. Let's see what we got. So we are saying, so only little over a third of you are using failover right now. 63% no. Perfect. So that means we actually have a good topic we want to talk about. All right. That's actually really interesting to know. So let's talk about what is DNS failover. DNS failover is a service that we can use within DNS to increase the uptime of your services, right? We're monitoring a site, we're monitoring a service, we're monitoring a CDN, we're monitoring a database, we're monitoring some service that is important for you. I can see people connecting to me on LinkedIn right now, and feel free to do that, no problem. I should have muted my phone, but don't worry about that. we're actually seeing people that have connections to databases, connections to third-party resources or something like that you're dependent upon, right? Your service is dependent upon something, and now you're going to need, if that service goes down, what do, right? What's the single point of failure within your infrastructure? Everything that we do at DNS Made Easy and Constellix, right? It actually starts with a passion of mine, and then some of the guys that have been with the company now for 15 plus years, right? Our VP of System Operations, Brian Hughes, and networking, David Miller, right? These guys have a passion for keeping our services online, right? If there's, just because we haven't had an outage in now 11 years plus, right? We have the highest uptime in the DNS industry. We have the best performance. That doesn't mean we stop thinking about how do we make our service better, right? We kind of, every day, it's like, oh, we had an attack. It didn't impact anything, but what can we learn from this, right? And how do we make our service better? We just launched, for instance, our Toronto POP, Toronto and Ontario, Canada, right? That's a POP that we didn't really need for redundancy. We didn't really need for a lot of other things. We had a lot of international users there, but we had Chicago, we had New York already, but we just launched that POP. We installed Juniper routers, switches, a bunch of bare metal servers, just to get that extra redundancy in that region, just to get that extra performance in that region. And we're looking for what happens if Chicago were to fall down, and what happens if another facility, like where do we route that traffic? How do we go to it? What is our backup? What's our business continuity? What's our disaster recovery plan, right? It's implementing that. So failover with DNS allows you to keep moving this traffic around based upon what systems are up and what systems are down, and allows you to keep that seamlessly so your users don't really notice much of a downtime, right? So failover is most commonly used to move traffic off an unhealthy web server and redirect to a pre-configured backup web server. That was kind of like the first use case. And I want to talk about throughout this webinar different use cases that we have. I'm actually going to mute that. We actually have different ways that we can move that traffic from one system to the other, right? So we're going to talk about different ideas of moving traffic. We're going to talk about the different scenarios and the different configurations. All right, so I'm back on my screen over here, and that's going to pretty much be what DNS failover is. A little bit about us. As I mentioned, DNS Made Easy, I really kind of launched in 2001. It was that hobby service. Believe it or not, it was a completely free service when I first launched it. And my idea was that there was no idea for revenue. Realizing free doesn't really turn into revenue. As I wanted to make it a little more resilient, realized we had to start charging a fee for it. We launched the DNS failover services in late 2002, really early 2003, but 2002 is when it was first originally launched for our users. And then we just kind of moved it along. So DNS Made Easy back in the day was a dynamic DNS service, right? It was really created for people that needed to change IPs quickly based upon their IP at their home changing. So if you think about that, well, we have that technology in place. Now we just got to monitor something. If it's down, change the IP, right? So it was a good fit for us to go into the DNS failover space. As the years have gone by now, right? So you're talking 20 years in the internet space. I did have a full set of hair when that started. And so over the 20 years, not only did I go bald, but at the same point that the change in the industry sort of happened, right? People started moving traffic regionally, right? We needed traffic to be faster. Traffic needs to be closer to the edge, closer to where the end user needs to be. So we introduced GeoDNS, right? And then in 2014, 2015, we finished the development of Constellix. Constellix is our next version of the DNS Made Easy services, which allows you to now make decisions not only based on location, but you can make decisions based on performance, right? You can make decisions based on networks and performance and region and all these other combinations together, right? And then throughout, obviously, we got some artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms put in there in about 2018, 2019. In 2020 was our beginning of 2020 was our first big push into multi-CDN. Huge right now, right? I don't know, everyone probably is a little bit aware of the big Fastly global outage, right? Should not have happened. No website should go down for a service like a CDN, like Fastly going down. There's services out there to prevent that, right? Services out there for, you know, $50 a month would have prevented, a top 100 website from going down, not being implemented. So we got to figure out why that's happening. We're going to talk about that throughout the webinar. And then obviously in 2021, we're adding new POPs, more monitoring and stuff like that. So where are we with the expertise? Like I'm saying, we've offered it since 2002. At the time when we offered DNS failover services, I'll say where I offered DNS failover services, before we brought on our staff like we have today, the only solution out there was $2,000 a month, right? It was that the same company is actually still offering failover services today for not much cheaper than that, believe it or not. But their sales pitch was, how much does it cost if your website goes down, right? And you present that to a company and they're like, oh, well, we make so many millions of dollars on the internet when our website's up or down. And they're like, well, for $2,000 a month, we'll make sure your website stays online, right? And that's the big sales pitch. So we came in the industry and I said, okay, $4.95 a year, right? And it kind of like totally turned the industry upside down. A lot of the large cloud providers that then went in they actually matched the DNS Made Easy pricing. That's still our same pricing today, $4.95 a year in DNS Made Easy. Constellix has a little bit different pricing plan, but it's not much different than that. We've been the market leader in the most number of systems under DNS failover since 2004. So that's about 17 years now. And the statistic is right now with DNS Made Easy and Constellix, there's over 190,000. There's over 190,000 systems. We hit 190,000 2 months ago, so we're probably about 192,000 now. Systems that are monitored every 2 minutes or faster with Constellix. Constellix you can actually monitor every second. Every 2 minutes, 190,000 systems we're checking. We make sure that those systems are up or systems are down. So that gives a little bit of the industry and who we are. What I want to find out right now is, all right, real quickly, what does everyone feel? I'm gonna hopefully this poll pops up. What do you feel the IT industry is so far behind in adding to the failover to increase uptime? Let me know. I got different thoughts and different opinions, but it's not the Steve show. So give it a second here. And this is really, if you've ever had to implement, and let's think about this question, maybe you haven't done DNS failover. If you had to implement redundancy in your infrastructure, if you had the goal of implementing redundancy or a backup scenario, what's been holding you back, right? What's been the decision? What's been the main reason going forward? All right. So I think we're close to an 80% voting, which is still good for early on in the webinar. I'm not going to get 100%. I realize that. So let me close this. I thank you everyone for voting. Let me share these results real quickly. So most are saying, about half are saying don't understand, lack of knowledge of what it is or how it works. 10% believe cost reasons. So for you, 10%. 40 cents a month. Shame on you. 3% internal reasons, bureaucracy. I believe that's actually a lot larger, just from my understanding or talking to the large top, look at the Alexa top 500 domains. I probably have talked to the IT administrators or the teams associated with about half of them over the past 20 years. I think it's actually a much bigger. I think the internal reasons is probably a little bit larger from my point of view, but it's good to hear what everyone else thinks. Not enough resources, I believe that's a huge piece of it. And complexity of adding the redundancy, 100%, right? You're gonna say, Steve, it's not such a very easy thing to do, right? We're adding all these redundancy at the databases, we're adding redundancies in the data stores and everything like that. So that is something that is super, super important for the people to do, and it's a complex scenario. Not every solution is the same for everybody else. So I do appreciate you guys doing that. And that's going to be good to understanding, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit, right? What I really want to try to do is show you how easy it is to do on a simple point, right? We're going to do some very simple configurations, and for most of you, you're going to be like, Steve, come on, that's not going to help me, right? That's not going to get me to where I need to be to get my complete redundancy. And so if I can't get my complete redundancy, it's a waste. But what I want to do right now is I want to try to challenge everybody, right? Like every morning I wake up, I say, how can we make DNS Made easy? How can I make Constellix a better solution, right? And how do I make it a more redundant solution? How do I make it a faster solution, everything like that? And since about 2007, 2008, right, my staff has been filling out these SOC 2 Type 2 audits. I'm sure if anyone over here is working in a larger industry, all my clients, we got about 500 people on this webinar. And I'm sure most of you have heard what a SOC 2 Type 2 is. And most of you have heard what an ISO 27001 is, or something like that. We have these security audits we're filling out. So we're filling out, or we're going through our SOC 2 Type 2 audit report right now. And many of our clients ask us to fill out these vendor questionnaires. So it's all about redundancy and no single points of failure and stuff like that. And it's shocking that so many of our vendors, our clients, in both, right, especially many of our clients have asked us to fill this out, have gone through that same policy, right, where you have these things. But yet, when a CDN goes down like Fastly, their whole website goes down, right? Or when a third-party service goes down, everything goes down, right? And it's understanding that, right? It's like, well, maybe everything shouldn't go down. Maybe I can keep so many, or maybe there's right now 20 points of single points of failures, the SPOPs, right? The single points of failures you have. Let's try to reduce that 20 to 10, right? And now the number of outages are going to drop significantly, right? I mean, no doubt. I mean, DNS Made easy, Constellix, 100% uptime. Constellix is 100% uptime of its lifetime of its history. DNS Made easy and Constellix, the highest uptime in the industry since 2001. Even I know internally there's things that we can do better. There's things that we can perform better and get better. And those are things that we work on. So what we want to do, what I would like to say is, like, think of this as not just so it's going to answer my solution. It's going to answer everything. It's going to make everything perfect for me. Think of it, okay, how can I start implementing one or two things to start knocking off what we call the low-hanging fruits, right? Picking those off the tree. How can I get those answered? How can I get those fixed so I'm no longer having these problems, right? And as I start knocking all those out, overall, my uptime of my service is going to go up, the performance of my service is going to go up, and everything else is going to get better. So that's what I really want to try to challenge everybody with, right? So we have in our company, and there's other solutions as well, right? But we have DNS Made Easy, which is the legacy product. That's the one I wrote in 2001. That's where most of our staff and support I kind of really take care of. And then we have our newer Constellix product. DNS Made Easy failover solutions, it's a set, right? It's every 2 to 4 minutes. And then you have set locations. We monitor in DC, New York, and LA. That's where the monitoring is. It has not changed. Constellix, you choose where you want to monitor. You choose the frequency of which you want to monitor. It's not really max of 14. It's actually a max of much more. It's over like 50 different locations right now, expanding to over 100. We give you full analytics of everything about it. And then we can say that you can be monitoring all 45 locations every 30 seconds. You're actually monitoring less than every second. So it's a complete more of a flexible scenario. And so with that, I want to know, just on this poll, since we did send this out to all DNS Made Easy and to all Constellix users, I just want to get a quick little view of what does everybody use that's currently on this webinar. So the 500 so of you, just give me a quick little I'm thinking it's mostly DNS Made Easy. So DNS Made Easy right now currently handles over 1 million domains. It does about 180 billion queries a day. We have over 30,000 different organizations that have an account with us. So it's by far the larger platform. Let me see. And that's what I thought. So DNS Made Easy, Constellix, we have some using both, and we have some neithers. That's good to know. Welcome, and we hope you join. Or if you don't actually use our services, we hope you use a service that increases your uptime and your performance, right? Just to get to that better level of service. So with DNS Made Easy, all the failover was done within the A record. It's still done within the A record. The A record for the non-DNS people on the call, it's the record that maps a name to an IP address. In Constellix, we support the A, the quad A. The quad A is the IPv6 record. Everyone, it's quad A because instead of 32 bits, it's 128 bit, right? So 4 times 32, 128. So that's the quad A record. You have the CNAME record, which is also referred to as your alias record, your canonical name record. And then DNS Made Easy and Constellix has invented the A name record, which gives you the functionality of the CNAME, but at the A and the quad A level. Oh, so great. And then Constellix failover also comes with detailed logging, historical comparisons. It has a whole monitoring suite as well, so it gives you the trace routes before and after. That's not the purpose of this webinar. I'm not going to be able to show all that. If you'd like to see all the stuff that Sonar can provide you, so Constellix has the DNS piece and the Sonar piece and the analytics piece, and it has all these pieces that work together. If you'd like to see a full demo of that, feel free to reach out to us. We have a team now of customer success managers and account managers, and we have a whole support team that can help you and guide you through what solution we can do to help you to give an affordable solution to increase your uptime. So what we're going to talk about though, and what I mentioned a little bit earlier, is creating that ideal failover strategy, right? Every organization has a different use case, right? Everyone has a different plan, right? What do I want to increase redundancy on, right? So if I had to think about last week, right, I would think about, okay, if I was using Fastly and if Fastly went down, I don't want my website to go offline, right? So how am I going to start solving that, right? What services does Fastly do for me, right? If I had to think about the month before, I could think about a couple months ago, there was that hosting company in Europe, the whole data facility burned down, right? Then we have a couple Amazon outages, right? There's been some Cloudflare outages, right? So where am I using which services? You know, just ourselves, for instance, we use Acuity scheduling. Well, that was down yesterday for about 35, 40 minutes, right? No one can book a demo and stuff like that. So what services are we relying on? What's crucial to keep our service online, right? And that's kind of the big thing. You don't need redundancy everywhere. You just need redundancy where it matters, right? Where are you trying to get that SLA service where you're providing enough service to your users so that they feel that they're not going to lose trust in your brand, right? So that's understanding what it is. And then how are you going to do that, right? How are you going to change everyone's going to be a little bit different, right? You have different database configurations, you have different third-party services. And what I said before, it's like, you know, not every nut is going to match every single bolt. There's not hey, this is how I do failover. I'm going to implement it like this. Yeah, Steve said to configure this record. I'm going to configure this record. And just a note, no one please use the domain names that I use or the IP addresses that I'm going to use in the demos. I cannot tell you over the past 20 years when we have actually done webinars and then we get like 50 tickets and saying, I tried creating the domain example.com and I went to it, I don't see my website. So I'm just putting that warning label on the bottom right now. So it's not every solution is going to fit it, but we're going to walk through some scenarios that's going to give you that extra redundancy. Okay. So I'm going to do a quick little review. Some tickets over here. All right, we're going to talk about some tickets. I apologize. I'm in the support world. I'm looking at some of these questions. We are going to talk about how failover works. I'm going to explain that properly. We have some good feedback here. Someone mentioned people have unreasonable confidence in DNS. Me, I don't know. I got to talk to you about that, James. Trying to figure out what you mean by that. So, confidence in DNS. Like, is DNS always going to be up? It shouldn't be, right? And I think you should have redundancy at every possible way. If my best friend was to talk to me about DNS, I would say you'd want to have a redundant solution, right? But if you're going to pick a DNS provider, you should pick the one that historically and strategically has the best uptime. And if you ever want to go and dig into one of our calls, and when we talk to like larger clients and we talk about how our network is to achieve the highest uptime over the last 20 years in DNS, is because we have the largest authoritative DNS network in the world, and we could prove that statistically with our peers and our network and our routing and everything like that, and the number of bare metal servers. You know, we don't do VPSs, we do bare metals. We give full, you know, we have so much extra capacity. There's a reason why we can do that. So there's a lot of faith you can put in DNS that will give you a much higher uptime. So historically, you can do really well. Now, there are some DNS solutions, obviously, that keep going down. So, I mean, we had a bunch of users that came over from the network solutions and the register.com outage. That was like 2 days of outages, right? Dyn had an outage recently. Alter DNS had a 3.5-hour outage. So I understand how there's hesitation about putting all your faith in DNS. But with some of these solutions I'm showing you, we can actually do a secondary DNS service as well. So you can have the failover logic brought into here, and then just in case, you know, DNS Made or Constellix does have an issue, you can have the redundancy somewhere else, right? And there's some things that work well when you do redundancy somewhere else, and some things that it's just harder to. But I was going to say, if you're going to pick a solution to trust, you might as well pick a solution that just has historically the best uptime. History is usually the best way to predict the future. And then, yes, I'm sorry, guys. I had like 1,000 people mention that the poll was up. So I fixed that the last time. So we're moving along over here. Okay, so what we're going to talk about here, I'm going to show 3 different failover strategies. I'm going to show you how to configure. That was the promise of this webinar, and we're a half hour in. I've just been blabbing, so I got to actually do a demo fast, and I got to show you how to set up failover. And we got 3 different failover strategies. I tried to break it down to. So what I did is I asked my staff to go through and say, what are the 3 most common failover configurations we have? Now, I'm not talking about the type of applications that are going to be behind the failover strategy, right? But what I'm talking about is the failover strategy itself. Like, what are we doing? So one's what we call is the standard failover. The second one's a round robin. Another one involves a little more GeoDNS. The GeoDNS one, I promise, I could do it in 5 minutes. It would be at a level though that it would be unhelpful for most of you. So let's not even worry about that. The first one we're going to talk about is how we have an active system, right? Do I have the ability to? I do, right? So we have our active system. Let me go here. Yeah. All right. I was going to see if I could draw on it, and it's going to take me longer to figure that out. So we'll skip that whole. We'll delete this part of the recording when we show you the replay. All right. So in this part, we have the primary server and the secondary server. They're both currently running, but you want all your traffic on the primary server. And then if that server goes down, you want all the traffic to go to the backup server, right? The secondary server. Complexity involved in this, right? Let's think about that. It's not that hard to think about. You have to have data on both systems, right? you need to internally figure out how you're going to replicate the data from one to the other. Now, I'll be honest with you, back in 2002, when we first did DNS failover, most websites, and I'm talking some large brands, some large logos that if you walk through your shopping store, you would say, oh, I know them. They would have their primary site be their fully functional site, and the secondary site was just saying, we're currently undergoing maintenance, right? That was acceptable back in 2002. I don't know if you guys remember that long ago. You probably have, most of our users now are born right around that same time, so you probably don't. But back in the 90s and the early 2000s, it was okay if the site said it's currently undergoing maintenance, right? That was all right. That wasn't a huge loss to it. As we've gone later and later in the years now, that's not, you can't be doing that as often, right? You can't be having under maintenance, 5 minutes every day or an hour every month even. You want to be reducing that. So now the complexity in that scenario is replicating the data from the primary to the secondary server, right? What data do you need to replicate? How much data do you need to replicate? Can you replicate enough to give it a reliable solution if we brought the solution over, all right? In the next scenario is the round robin. So now we have multiple servers all accepting traffic, and they're distributing the load, right? Now in DNS Made Easy, I will say it has to be an even distribution, right? You have 3 servers, they all need to have the exact same amount. They're all going to be returning the exact same, all the IPs all the time. If one goes down, that one IP is removed, right? In Constellix, totally different scenario. You could have the exact same way, which is very basic DNS, or some of our large cloud providers will have hundreds of systems behind the scenes, and we're only going to return 2 or 3 IPs at a time, right? And we're just going to remove the ones that are down, right? So they're no longer being returned, right? A little more complex. We also have the complexity in Constellix as well to provision distribution of traffic based upon the size of the server or resource, right? So if you were using cloud, or if you're using just dedicated bare metal, you can say, okay, this CPU, this can handle 2 times as much traffic as these normal servers do. So I have 10 servers up, one of them is more powerful than the rest. So I want it to handle, if it's going to be shown, I want it to show twice as often as the rest of them, right? So we also have that level of complexity to go into there. The more common one though, right, like I said, start talking about the geo stuff around 2010. People started putting content on the edge, getting it closer to everyone's region. We're in this scenario here, right, where we're now, the monitor is the user, right, and then we have the rack of servers, and we're trying to have every person quickly reach the server that's closest to them, right? So this is something we do in DNS Made Easy pretty darn well. It's something we do excellent in Constellix, because we allow you, it's not only DNS Made Easy services, but we built on a better granular level of distribution as well, right? We could actually make those decisions based upon the city where the user is, right? The network that they're on where the user is, right? We're making decisions, as my phones were beeping, right? I got 2 different cell phone providers here, right? I'm making decisions. If I'm going to one of my clients' websites on this one, and because it's using the Verizon cellular network, I want it to be going to this cloud provider. But if I'm on T-Mobile or AT&T, I want it going to this other provider, right? Making decisions based upon the network that the user's on, more than just where the user's located, right? So I'm obviously still in the house, still in the COVID thing. We'll be opening that office soon, but we're based near Washington, D.C. So based upon Washington, D.C., I can see real user performance of what networks are better based upon the assets I need to get from my phone. So Constellix is a little more advanced, but obviously the failover scenario in this is, well, my servers are now down in South America. I want to direct those users up to North America. And same thing in South Africa, right? My servers are down. I want to direct all the users in Africa to go up to Europe, right? Making those decisions, understanding your use case, understanding where you have that data replicated, right? So on that note, we are now going to hit into the 5-minute configuration phase. So this is where you're going to see Steve either swim properly or drown in sorrow because I can't get the configurations done fast enough. So what I'm going to do here is let me get a couple screens out and ready to go. And I'm going to show you how you would do the configurations in both. So I'm going to first. All right, does everyone still see my screen? I think you do, so I'm just going to go with it. All right, so I'm first going to log in into an account here. And I think that was someone saying that they can, so I think we're good to go. I have two-factor authentication. There we go. All right, so I'm in this account over here. We have the Wednesday demo, right? And now what I want to do is I have two sites real quickly. These are not overly complex. Let me grab them. I did grab them over here. So I have one site that is, this is my primary version of this welcome server, right? And then I have a backup IP, which is going to give me this URL. Welcome to Nginx, go somewhere else. All right, I probably should have spent a little more time in making that a little more professional. Sorry about that, but it is what it is at this point. Just two sites, two different IPs. We're here to show the failover. We're not here to show the pretty website I could put up in front of it. All right, so we got the two separate pages going. So in DNS Made Easy, it's a real simple process. Once again, DNS Made Easy is only done within the A records. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create an A record here, and I'm gonna call it backup, and then I'm gonna put the primary IP address in here, and that's done. All right, and so now we're about 20% done with your configuration of failover. The next thing I probably want to do is lower the TTL. The TTL is the time to live, and that's how long that record is going to stay in cache. Which is what's going to be in memory in the resolving name servers and potentially your computers. So we're going to lower this to a little lower value. DNS Made Easy, we've always recommended for years 180 seconds or higher. Now, though, with the current internet, 60 seconds is fine. So it's going to hold for 60 seconds, right? So we created that record. That record is now automatically put out to the thousands of name servers in DNS Made Easy around the world. All right, now we're going to click on the system monitoring failover flag, and I want to turn on monitoring notifications so I get those emails, and I want to turn on the DNS failover service. The only thing I need to do now is put in the second IP address here, and I could actually put in a third IP address, right? I can put that in there, and we can list up the 5 different IP addresses. Just so you know, Constellix, you can have 256 different systems to fail over to, and have all the fun you want with it, and there's all these other scenarios and use cases you can do as well. I'm going to say my failover. This is who you want to be contacted. I'm going to say just the account owner. This is the maximum number of emails you want to be notified. We're going to send you an email for every failure and for every down and then for every up, right? So, and then we're going to send you email for every 5 consecutive failures. So if your system's, we're checking like once it's down, we're checking like every minute. So if you're down for an hour, it's going to be 60 emails. You're gonna be like, I don't need to get 60 emails. I only want to get a max of 5. And these also could be SMSs and stuff like that. You choose the sensitivity of how many times you want us to retry and check really quickly. I'm gonna set this at medium. I'm gonna say just check over HTTP port 80. I could put in the FQDN. I could put in the file to query, the string to look for, everything like that. We have some more advanced features, right? I could turn failover off. Anyway, that's it, I'm done. So I think I did that in less than 5 minutes. We're good to go. And what this means is that when that first IP goes down, we're going to go to the second IP, right? Rock and roll. So that's how you do it in DNS Made Easy. I'm going to do the exact same thing now in Sonar, but I'm actually going to do the whole failover in Sonar. We're actually going to bring the server down, see the IP change. The reason why, once again, I should ask a quiz. Constellix, I can monitor every second. I don't feel like sitting here for 2 minutes and thinking of things to talk about and having silence as it is already, when you're talking to yourself and staring at a monitor for an hour, people start thinking you have the problems. So what I'm going to do here is just log into my same test account in Constellix. Actually, I went into the sonar piece. Well, actually, this is good. So I'm actually going to show you how to create. I already have that system being monitored, but I'm going to create a new one real quickly. I'll create a web check. I'm going to give it the name. I'm going to say this is my Wednesday demo, and I'm going to check port 80. I'm going to say I'm going to do all agents. Simple. I'm not going to get into the details of all this. I'm just going to select all my locations. Right now, there's 42 locations I can choose. So I'm choosing 42 locations every 30 seconds, pretty much. And this allows me to choose who I want to be contacted. It gives you a much granular level of stuff. I could do a live check right away. The system's up and running to go, right? And you can check from all the different locations where we have monitoring from. I could check in India and see the status of it and stuff like that. I got my advanced settings as well, and then I could have maintenance windows. So I'm just going to start this up though, and put this in over here. So my Wednesday demo, I got tons of checks in my account, but the Wednesday demo one should show up. Let me see if I could. I gotta refresh it. All right, and then what I'm gonna do on another screen is I'm actually gonna configure the failover now. So let me log in to the, I apologize, I put in the wrong URL. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is actually configure the failover. So I'm gonna go into my A record, or go into my domain. And once again, I could do this with the A, the quad A's, the C names, and the A names. I can do all this within Constellix. And what I'm going to create is a record called webinar, right? And I'm going to say I want a failover type. And I have different frequencies, and I'm going to specify my first IP. And now this is where I can actually choose. You see, there's my new sonar check, the 68889. That's the one that, let me see, there it is, the Wednesday demo. You see it right there? That's the one I just created. It's doing 120,960 checks per day. So I'm going to choose that as that's what I want to make the decision on. Now I don't want to get into the details here. I can make decisions on a different IP if I wanted to. I could just put the check ID in here and do whatever I want. Now what I want to do here is I want to put the backup system. And I want to put, we'll put a third system in as well, which I already have the monitoring set up for to go in there. And currently the status is all up right now. And I'm just going to do standard failover. I'm going to do save and close. Click here. So it's my webinar.server.us. It's actually a live domain. So as I push save, obviously the commit process in Constellix is a little different. It allows you to put notes and changes. You can roll back. It has version history. It gives you all those extra features that more of the corporate users have needed. I don't want to get into a big demo of Constellix, but if you do want a demo of Constellix, feel free to let us know and you can get into that. All right, so at this point, if I go here, and I hope everyone can see my screen, and feel free to join it at home because, you know, a webinar where you're involved in typing, it's so much more exciting than me just doing it myself. But if I do webinar.server.us, you're gonna see I'm getting that 159 address, right? If I Google, you know, if I try to hit a Google's rock solid fast again. If I hit a Google resolving name server, you're gonna get that IP. Now one thing, you know where Steve made a mistake? I set that TTL at 1800. So here's what we're gonna do. We are going to create another, we're gonna change this, and we're just gonna call it web. And we're gonna lower this TTL to a nice low 5 seconds. I've done demos before where that I'm having to talk for a half hour. And that is seriously like the first date when you're just sitting there bored, out of your mind, trying to come up with things to talk about. Okay, so We are on web. All right, there we go. So now if I have a 5-second TTL. So if I was to query web, all right, there it is. So we got the 159.203. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to log into this box, right? And service Nginx stop. All right, Nginx obviously just a web server that usually stops. All right, it should stop at this point, right? And if I was to look at Sonar, it's automatically reported as being down. And if I was to look at my pages here, or my configuration, look, it's already changed. So if I was to actually make a query, it's already at the 162.243, right? If we were to use our trusty DNS toolbox and do a DNS propagation and do a web.server.us, and we're going to hit the Google name servers everywhere around the world, right? We're hitting the 162, right? All the way around the world. It shows you where every place that it's hitting the Google, right? So if I went back to here, if I turn that server back up, right? It's already back up, right? We're monitoring faster than every second, right? So if we're monitoring every second, that, by the way, selling point, and I'll be honest, everybody, I didn't talk about it in my bio. I'm actually a computer science major from the University of Buffalo. So I'm not a marketing guy. I really care about, the IT part of things and how things work. To me, that's the most exciting part about it. But Constellix is the only solution in the world that can make decisions every second of the day and keep changing them every second of the day as your decisions keep changing. But obviously, so what we did here is we changed that to be up. And if I was to run the same check now everywhere around the world, oh, this caches it. But if I was to run that same, if you guys are testing it at home, right? Let me go to web. Right, you're back at the 159 again, right? If I was to bring it back down, and then we're gonna see it. All right, it's back down. And you all should be testing it at home. You should see it work for you as well. We're back at the 162. So immediate failover, right? So now the next solution we were going to talk about is how do we do that with round robin, right? Well, similar thing in Constellix, it's such a frequent solution. We do it two ways. One way, you can use what's called pools, which gives you the ability to do unequal weights. It gives you the ability to only return 2 IPs of the 3 or 1 of the 3 at a time. I'm gonna do a very standard one. I'm gonna do a round robin with failover, right? So with that one, I'm just gonna put in, what I wanna do is I'm gonna start this back up so it just looks better. Add sites. And I'm just going to put the IPs in here. And I'm going to do, I'm going to still call it web. We'll leave that alone. Save. We're going to commit these changes. This tells you what changes you're making. Push it through. Go save. Go live. How am I doing on time? Ooh, 9 minutes. We got to go. We got to go. We got to go. So we're doing now. This is our third configuration. I'm definitely under the 5-minute mark per. And so now we have round robin failover, right? So if I was to do, you see I got all 3 IPs, right? If we shut the one box down again, we're gonna keep just using this box. And the same thing is gonna happen, right? If I do a refresh here, anyway, we're down to 2 IPs, right? So we had round robin, we took one down, we got rid of it, we moved it off. So that's kind of the simple configuration. So the two most common configurations. You can now the second one you can also do in DNS Made Easy. It's going to take about another 4 or 5 minutes. I don't want to spend time doing that. But think about that, how to have systems be monitored, detect it, change things, replicating stuff, everything like that. So what I would like to do now is quickly, if you were, and this is kind of the big thing we talked about, right, earlier on. If you were to use failover, right, and if you were to implement failover, what data would you be using it for? This is the static part of your websites, the application level, the database. Where do you feel the biggest need for DNS failover in your IT infrastructure? Right, and we did have, once we get done with this poll, I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. We did have some questions to understand how failover works, right? And I hope I addressed it, but I want to talk about it real quickly. How failover works is there's a monitoring setup, right? That we will monitor your application, right? You can, if you have blocked IPs, we can open up those IPs for you. And then let me see what the results are here. So static websites, about 30%, that's the easiest one, right? 30%, the easiest one to do. It's static assets, they're static pictures, even CDNs, the easiest ones to set up failover, right? We're doing failover right now for 190,000 plus systems. I'm trusting you based on the statistics and the idea of going through it. The easiest ones to get done. That's the low-hanging fruit. Applications, a lot harder, right? Where you're getting your data storage from moving forward. Databases, right? Used to be harder, getting a little bit easier depending what database you're using, right? Using the old SQL based, some of the non-SQL databases, much easier to replicate and get everything. Half of you though have combinations for all of them. So what I would recommend though is if you haven't done anything yet, do the easiest ones first, right? Get the biggest bang for the buck, right? You know, it's like when you're trying to lose weight, you know, those first 5 pounds, easiest to knock off, right? For me, it's just stop opening the fridge after 9 p.m., right? So that's kind of the thing, right? Get the easy, the low-hanging fruit, knock them out, and move forward with it. But I'm gonna get back to our slides here. All right, we did our wonderful demo. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. What I want to talk to you real bit though is I want to finish up my conversation on on how failover works. We're monitoring it, right? When we detect a system, every solution does it differently. So I'm going to talk how we do it in DNS Made Easy. In DNS Made Easy, we double check, triple check, and quadruple check, right? And then based upon your, remember me showing you in there the sensitivity based upon do we check again, do we check again, do we check again, right? It's going to be consecutive checks though, go really, really fast. Constellix, we check it, and then there's one of those settings in the sonar. What do we consider an outage, right? Is the server up? Is the server down? Do we check from the same location or multiple locations, right? I'll be honest with you, DNS Made Easy was one of the first ones to do a smart failover, right? Smart failover, if we want to go back to here, right? Or go back to this earlier setup. I think this one will show it. Yeah. If secondary server was down, solutions 20 years ago, if the primary server was down, it would just move your traffic over without checking if the secondary server was up first, right? I look at that you're moving out of the frying pan, you're going into the fire. You're making things no better, you're still burning up, right? Don't make something, don't change anything if it's not gonna make anything better, right? Leave it alone. So what we do in DNS Made Easy, we check the secondary server first before we move the traffic. Obviously in Constellix, we're monitoring all your servers all the time, so we're not gonna move the traffic to something that's down. Same sort of thing, right? So when you do have these failovers and you do have these outages, what does it cause you, right? Now, obviously for me, when there's an outage of anything, it causes me stress, right? I can't lose any more hair, right? But it means I'm visiting that refrigerator a little more often. I'm going to be snacking a little bit more, right? Stress kills me, right? All my staff, when we have any outage or any sort of any issue that even does not DNS outage, that doesn't happen. But when we have an outage of any sort of thing, like an API level sort of service, people can't log into the website. Any minor sort of thing, which we've had very little over the last 20 years, causes us tons of stress, right? And potential loss of revenue, loss of brand reputation, right? People are like, I can't get to your website, I can't get to your services. It's a public relations nightmare, right? We spend, 50 times more dealing with the aftermath of any sort of significant service outage than we actually do if we the outage itself, right? A 5-minute outage is days and days and days, sometimes weeks of PR stuff, and that's the excessive staff time. So if you think about this, and if you guys are not the decision makers, and I hope all you guys are enjoying this webinar, but if you're at the role in your company, and if you feel that you have a tough time making a case to build in a backup plan for this service or this service or this service, go to your managers, go to your superiors and say, okay, the amount of time it will take me to build in this is estimated at this level. And that's why you pick the low-hanging fruits first, right? You pick the easy ones to knock off, right? And to say, if I can get this done in 40 hours, right? And I just showed you a way of doing it in 5 minutes. If I can get this done in 40 hours, and it could potentially save the company hundreds of hours, right? How many staff people are unable to have to respond to tickets or respond to service supports or the issues of everything else that causes when a service goes down, right? You're gonna get that ROI immediately. And that's the biggest way that you can go to your superiors and say, I wanna increase this, right? I wanna be in charge of increasing the uptime for my company, right? And honestly, outages are costly and they do upset the customers, right? They do. I mean, anytime we have any sort of issue, it's upsetting to them. Q1 2021, the average outage of DNS Made Easy, that's our new DNS Made Easy logo you will be seeing soon. We're doing like a new cool rebranding thing that our marketing team is so happy with, and they're coming up with a new brand. But the DNS Made Easy and Constellix, the average outage in Q1 2021 was 34 minutes. 34 minutes. Some are longer, right? Fastly, long, over an hour. Some were shorter, but the average one is 34 minutes for us. We had 22,545 failover attempts. Now, obviously, the failover ones that I just did now were a couple seconds, right? But overall, we did it in about 766,530 minutes of outages. Now, if you look at Gartner and you look at Forbes and everything like that, you're going to see that the average cost of a minute of downtime for an online service of a significant size is $5,600 a minute. Obviously, if you're a large news company, if you're a large e-commerce company, if you're a large B2B customer, it's far more than that, right? 1 hour, 1 minute of outage of our DNS services would cost us far more than $5,600 a minute, right? I'm not even going to discuss how much it would cost, the loss of our brand and everything like that. Every company is different, but if you take that 766,000 and you extrapolate over what the industry experts are saying a cost of minute of downtime, the Constellix and the DNS Made Easy failover has prevented about $4.3 billion of outages just in the first quarter alone. Like, it is the #1 way to keep websites online, right? We're the highest running DNS, we're the only DNS service in the world that's been up for more than 5 years at this point, and we're going on 11 plus years. In the 20 some odd years, we had about 2 or 3 minutes of issues. If you users have been around long enough, you noticed it was on the West Coast a long time ago, right? Most of our users have never noticed anything, right? But we have been like the industry standard of keeping websites online with these failover services, and they're cost effective, right? They're not gonna take you out. Okay. I am over a couple of minutes already. So what I want to do real quickly is I'm going to skim through some questions over here and try to knock them off. If you guys are done for the day and you're like, okay, I hit my hour, I got no questions, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. I know I took up an hour of your time, and listening to me talk for an hour you deserve a round of applause for yourself to deal with that. But I'm going to try to skim through over here and see if I can knock off some of these questions real quickly. How much of that 4.3 billion did we see? Not even a fraction of it. It's not about us, right? It's about you. It's all about you guys. So don't worry about that. Some networks use caching name servers that ignore smaller TTLs and broadcasting multiple A records, the best practice to handle those. Okay, so that's what I talked about, Jesus, is you talked about a lot of the networks ignoring low TTLs. So back in early 2000s, I've noticed that a lot more, right? I noticed that even at like a 5-minute TTL would be ignored, and wait, I think in 1996 I noticed that. In the early 2000s, I haven't seen anything less than 180, right? In the last 10 years, no one admire my staff has seen anything less than 60 seconds. I'll be honest with you. And 99% of the resolvers will even recognize 5 seconds or less. I mean, you see I was hitting Google over there. Google is the largest public recursive name service. Most people use the recursive name servers at their ISP, of course. I used Google there. Cloudflare is also a very big one. They don't support DNS RFCs and basic resolving, so I won't use that for testing, but they're also very popular. You have OpenDNS, you have a lot of other ones out there as well. So I don't see many of those in my industry experience of 20 some odd years, handling 180 billion queries. You know, we're doing over 1 million domain names. We don't see a lot ignored at lower levels. So the webinar, okay, I'll talk about the webinar next week in a second. We are doing another webinar next week. We're doing, they take care of cloning a second server. They integrate with DNS Made easy. They need to integrate with API would be different. Yes, so for grid pane, if it is using a DNS Made easy API, it would need to integrate with Constellix. We do have, as our company has grown in the last year and a half, 2 years, I do have a dedicated developer to work on integrations. So if you need an integration that DNS Made easy is integrated in and not Constellix, let me know, let my staff know. We will work on it as soon as possible, right? We will use this for our external VPN gateway and multiple IPs to our offices. Yes, many people will use it to do even internally, right? They'll have multiple connections to a VPN inside their office. And if one ISP goes down, they want all their users, everyone's working remote now, right? I'm still in my house near Washington, DC. Shout out to anyone in Washington, DC. If you want to go see a Nats game, let's go. So anyway, but there are tons of scenarios where people have 2 different ISPs, right? Going into their offices. If one office connection goes down, we're checking that one and we'll turn it to the second one. That's a very common use case that our support staff probably sees at least once a week. As a follow-up or during webinar, secondary acts are between DNS Made and Constellix. Is there enough separation of the 2 infrastructures for that to be beneficial? Good question. So Ryan, you asked if should you use DNS Made easy and Constellix together so one's a backup to the other? I will be completely honest with you, and I would say, and since I'm not a marketing person or a salesperson, I'll say there'd be 0 benefit for you, my friend. They're on the exact same network right now. Every single POP has a stack of bare metal expensive servers handling the queries for one, and a separate stack of servers handling the queries for the other. Some locations, we actually have 2 separate Juniper routers. You know, Juniper has been a big partner with us in our expansion over the last 10 years. You know, and we buy those MX204s now pretty much all the time. Some racks will have 1 for each, and maybe sometimes it will have 4 in there, 2 for DNS Made easy, 2 for Constellix. Depending upon the crucial nature of that POP, the type of attacks, the type of bandwidth providers going in, the pairing exchanges, all those sort of things kind of go into that calculation and cost. But that's a great question, but I would not recommend using one as a backup to the other because they're on the same network. When I look for, and that's where some of our competitors will do, I'll be honest with you, Ryan, we have competitors in the industry that will offer a secondary solution that's 99% the exact same network they're running on. You know, and some real large companies use those, and I kind of scratch my head. I'm like, you have to do the research, right? This is all about taking control and taking responsibility for your uptime. You have to dig in deep and say, well, what network is this service running on, and what network is this service running on, right? If they're both running on the same network, then they have a single point of failure. It's this network, right? So it's understanding that. So that is a great question. Ryan, if you want to come join us, you can. That's a great question. Can you fail over to a dynamic IP? 100%, Gene. You could definitely fail over to dynamic IP addresses. That's not a problem at all. Both DNS Made Easy and Constellix have dynamic DNS services as well. Can I use round robin in DNS Made Easy? Yes, you can. That is no problem whatsoever. I skipped it because the Constellix one's a little bit easier. It saved me like 2 minutes. The DNS Made Easy one, you got to create the 3 individual records, and then I would create the failover for each one. It would take me about 2 or 3 minutes to do it. What's your opinion of OpenDNS for, say, Google? You're talking about recursive DNS, I'm guessing. I think Google just offers a great service, but they also, you know, your data is being used in all of them. It really is. OpenDNS has been, you know, a standard for the first large recursive name service in the world. What for all my testing and stuff that I use personally, I use Google. Do most DNS servers honor low as 5 seconds? I thought some won't go below. We already talked about the low TTLs. And I'm saying in the last 20 years, it's changed. I haven't seen anything less than 60 seconds over 10 years, and I've seen nothing ignoring the 5 seconds in the last almost 10 years now. I had an interruption. Yes, this whole webinar will be recorded, so you can watch it again and again and again, and share it with all your friends. I would probably check out whatever's more popular on Netflix for the day first, but that's just me. All right, I saw a bunch of people were checking the DNS while I was doing it, and they said they had good results. A ballpark figure for the cost of Constellix. Yeah, not much more than DNS Made Easy. All of our services are affordable. It's based upon, so in Constellix, you can monitor every second. So monitoring every second obviously costs us more than monitoring every 2 minutes, right? So it's based upon the frequency of the monitoring. Roughly every 2 minutes is 70 or 80 cents, I think, a month, right? It's one of the lowest. It's the lowest in the industry. It's still not $2,000 a month that our competitors charge, but it gives you a lot more analytics. It gives you graphs and uptimes. I didn't have time to go into all that. We have a situation, internet goes down for 10 or 15 minutes, DNS forwards the failover IP. When internet recovers the first IP, the forwarding stops. How to stop since we want to sync the database back up. Okay, so that's a great solution. Gary has a great solution. Gary is talking about, I'm gonna go to a video here, where he doesn't want it to automatically go back to the first IP, right? And he doesn't want it to go back to the first IP because he has to manually sync his data back, right? So, all right, we got that. That was a very popular scenario. If I look at my my failover configuration, I'm gonna look at this one right here. I think I got logged out already. I didn't. Okay, I'm gonna turn failover off after any failover event. So as soon as any failover event happens, this right here, my friends, this little notch will turn off for you, right? That's how you do it in Constellix. And in DNS Made Easy, let's see if I'm still in here. I am. It didn't log me off yet. In DNS Made Easy, I'm going to do this one. Turn off failover after first failure. So it's first failure turns off, it turns itself off. So that's a great question, Gary. Great TF server. This works for SD-WAN as well. I have 2 ISPs for 1 server. Can I make this work as well? This dimmer is for 2 different servers. This works for SD-WAN as well. I have 2 ISPs for 1. Yes, Gary. This is a different Gary. Your question regarding your 2 different ISPs for a WAN, it will also work. Just like talking about the 2 different ISPs for the VPNs for the clients now, where they're all working remotely. That works as well. Does round robin have a sticky session? So that's an interesting, Dale asked a question regarding the round robin and sticky sessions. So it's interesting because we don't have knowledge of the HTTP protocol, right? We are a DNS provider, we're authoritative DNS. and we are only communicating with the resolver, right? So the resolver is having some sort of communication. We talk to the resolver and we hand it out. And when you're talking to Google, you're talking to hundreds of different IPs, right? If someone from New York was to query one of our name servers directly, right? They would hit one of their systems would hit us, right? It's not going to be the same one every single time. So we don't have that ability. A lot of I'll be honest with you, some authoritative DNS servers will push, oh, we give you some sticky thing. Yeah, because they only have one name server, right? They don't have thousands of name servers around the world that we do, and they're talking to all of these other things. So there are ways to do sticky. We can do it if we had probably 10 name servers, right? But since DNS Made Easy and Constellix works on thousands of name servers, because we believe uptime is the most important thing in the world, not just a feature that doesn't really work well, there's no such, can't do that thing with sticky so well. I hope that answers that question. I'm not trying to talk around, I'm just being completely honest. There's no way that you can do that because we don't have the ability to say, all right, you know, this web browser is the same as this query coming into the resolver hitting our authoritative, so we're going to give that same IP back every single time. We don't see which web browser it is. It could be anyone in New York City making that query to Google, right? Google will give us the EDNS client subnet, and so we can make decisions on that, and we actually do that, and we do try to get the same IP back, right? But there's no way to guarantee it like a sticky thing. The only way to really guarantee it is if you had like 1 or 2 name servers, and then you're just monitoring, okay, this resolver got this response, I'm going to give this exact same resolver the response, even if it's a millisecond later. You can't do that when you have thousands of name servers around the world like us. So it's not technically possible. So let me go into this one. Can you force the failover from primary to secondary for maintenance and then easily go back? Yes, 100%. That's something you can very easily do. If you see down here, if I want to, I just turn it off, and now the traffic goes off that box, and it'll go on to the second one automatically. And you could do this through an API. You could do it through anything. I could even change the rotation here in Constellix and flop the first to the second. Real simple as well. So that's that one. We're currently using Flywheel as our failover. Will be consistent redundancy if we configure failover in DNS Made Easy? That's a good question. It depends how you're using Flywheel on how it's integrated. You don't want to, if you already got the redundancy built in, you don't want to put, add an additional layer. It probably cause, more issues. I would say to schedule a time to talk to our support team, and we can go over it. For DR strategy, can you control the DNS failover instead of automatically? Yes, you can do a controlled failover where you manually have to do it. That's what I just showed you. Will you cover the setup? Yes, we covered the setup. Why don't people have failover? That means resign. Put probably his fails under lock. Okay. Don't let current way. Yep. Do you mind explaining how failover works? We talked about that. We got that one. People unreasonable. We talked about that being recorded. This will be recorded. We will show it to you later. Page stock. I'm aware. I apologize for that. Love it. Reviews. All right, we got that. All right. Why would someone choose DNS Made Easy? They know about Constellix, not for cost, and made the switch a year ago and paid pennies more. Why would someone? Okay, I got a couple more questions. Why would someone use Constellix? Why would someone choose DNS Made Easy if they know Constellix exists? Well, it's kind of like confidence in the brand. DNS Made Easy. I mean, that's my little baby, right? I wrote it 20 years ago. It means a lot to me. The name killed us, right? DNS Made Easy. Easy in America means cheap. Even though we were affordable, means cheap, low quality. We're losing clients, right, to competitors that had inferior networks, higher outages almost yearly, if not twice a year, slower performance, and their sales team is saying DNS Made Easy is not enterprise because of the name. We're doing a big rebranding right now. We're trying to change that and that image. But yes, Constellix is slightly more for some features. Sometimes it's cheaper. And it gives Constellix has 1,000 times more features. 100%, Matthew. I agree, but we're not getting rid of DNS Made Easy, right? We've made that decision. We weren't going to call the new service DNS Made Easy Plus, and so that's what we're doing. You're doing your own recording with OBS. You don't need to. I will do it. I got that taken care of. If anyone wants to move from one service to the other, from DNS Made Easy to Constellix, you just let our team know. We have a great group, and I'm honest with you. These people care more about your uptime and your reliability than any other company will care in the world, right? They will do the work, they will spend more time doing the work, and that's what we're motivated by, right? So let us know. That's what we're here for. Can I have a geolocated IP address and also have them in failover? Yes, you could definitely do. I'm just gonna answer the questions as they keep coming in. You can definitely have geolocation based on this, right? So I can say right now, I could go as specific as this. In Northern Virginia, on a Verizon cell phone, I want to go to this IP address. And only those people, I want to go to this IP address. And if that IP address goes down, I want to move that to a different IP address, right? We can go as specific as that in Constellix. Is there a migration path to upgrade? Yeah, there's just contact us. We'll go through that. 50 million queries, 2 global domains, 50 checkers. Which provider would you choose, or which solution would you choose? You could choose either one. At the 50 million mark, Constellix is probably a little more affordable, and it gives you a little more level of deep. When you have 50 million queries, you also have a decent amount of traffic, so you probably want the failover to be done a little bit faster. I would probably at least look at Constellix. I'm not pushing you either way. Both solutions would work. Can we download this webinar? Yes, you will be able to download this. Is there any service to be able to monitor IPsec SSMP service? We're working on that. We're working on the IPsec SSTP. Do you think organizations of all sizes need failover or just larger? Every single company can benefit from DNS failover, right? You're looking at something that starts at 40 cents a month, right? If it helps you potentially save 1 hour of outage every 3 years, right? You're looking at $15 to give you that little extra insurance plan that's going to save you hours of work. Do it. 100% do it. If any of my employees ever asked me, can I spend this little bit of resources and potentially save us, I would say do it over and over and over again, right? That's my personal, and that's kind of like my challenge to the industry. Let's do better. It's been 20 years, and 10 of the top 100 websites were taken off last week for an hour. That's unacceptable. Now I actually know we work with some of those companies. They have some internal things they're working on. They know it. They're working on it though, right? So it's not like it's unacceptable that it went down. It's unacceptable if you're not working on it, right? And as long as you're working on it and you're working on those solutions, that's what you want to do. And that's what I say, that's the best part about it, right? All right, I think I am, can you do a failover to a different domain? So DNS is based on a domain level, right? Now you could have CNAMEs, right, that respond to different names, right? And yeah, you can do failover to that, but you can't like change someone types in the domain name in the browser, they're typing in that domain name. You can't have it, do something else. That's what they're hitting. That's the resource they're going to. And we got a lot of good notes in here. So Robert's been with DNS Made Easy for 5 years. That's great. I spoke to a user last week that's been a user since 2002, right? And I don't want to get emotional, but I'm like, that says the world to me, right? If a company was trusting us for 19 years, and he's like, he goes, I can't go anywhere else because anywhere else I would have had so many outages already, right? No other provider in the industry. And he's kind of like a set it and forget it. Still doesn't have DNS failover turned on, but that's fine. He's at least on a solution that's giving him a better uptime. On this point, all right, listen, I am 20 minutes over here. And so I do want to respect all your times. Please keep sending up questions. What I want to do real quickly is next week, there's another webinar. You can go to multi-CDN.constellix.com and you can register today, okay? It's just 2 hours earlier, so we're trying to help those out in Europe a little bit. We have, I think I looked, instead of 1,000 registrants, we had about 500, I believe. So it's not quite as popular. It's a much more niche industry, but it's to really talk about that Fastly outage that happened last week, and the Cloudflare outage that happened the month before, and the Azure outage that happened the month before that, and the Amazon outage that happened the month, or the same month and the month before that, and 4 months before that. So it's to deal with all of those outages from these CDN companies, and how can you get multi-CDN set up. So many people are, they think all their eggs in one basket, and I'm all my faith, the CDN will never go down. It's gonna go down, right? It's gonna go down. We'll prove it's gonna go down. It's gone down in the past. Use history as a way to predict the future. Don't just blindly close your eyes and go all in. So that's next week. Please register. If you can't attend, no problem. We will send you the recording. And once again, you can listen to my bald head talk to you for a long period of time. Once again, thank you very much for attending, everybody. I know I've taken up now 83 minutes of your day, and it's just been me just kind of like going like this. And I know we haven't been able to communicate back, but please reach out to me. Reach out on LinkedIn, reach out to our staff here at DNS Made Easy and Constellix. We're more than happy to help you and explain the situation. Increasing uptime is so important for us to help all you guys achieve that, to increase the performance and increase uptime for you. That means everything to us. So feel free to let us know how we can help you at any point of it, right? Even if you want to just talk about it and not implement it right away, that's what we're here for, right? Trust me, all of our staff is trained for months. Some are trained for months. They don't have as much experience as we need to feel confident enough to propose solutions. And there's still a lot of calls that I will personally love to jump on and talk to them and be involved. Like I'm saying, I'm still in the weeds. I still am an engineer by trade. I'm not a marketing guy. I like coming up with solutions. So I hope everyone enjoys. So everyone, more importantly, stay safe, stay healthy. I hope to see everybody soon. Take care, and I'll see everyone next week. Bye-bye.